And here we go.
Sports!
I listen to you guys all the time.
It's awesome.
I'm in the mood for one of your classic anecdotes.
Give yourselves a round of applause. All right, that's enough. Yeah.
Hey guys, there is someone I want you to meet.
Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun on Off the Hook Sports. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net.
We're all part of the same team here.
Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Welcome to the program. More Nico talk. As you might imagine, a lot to get to. The SEC Media Day schedule is set. Four Downs will focus on Tennessee's potential basketball transfers Rick Barnes is not done, not even close. Some coaches react to Nico Iamaleava's decision to go vamoose. Also, Nico's NIL value is dropping quick. And I think that he will make less money the next year. That'll be Bank on It, brought to you by our good friends at Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. And also, we'll talk some Nico as some dirt has been uncovered concerning his time at Tennessee. And maybe he wasn't the greatest teammate. I found it to be a little nitpicky, but we'll discuss. And also, Caleb Calhoun will join us with his input. Caleb, how are you, sir?
Will join. I'm a member of the show, man. I am doing great, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. What do you make of, before we bring Jimmy in, what do you make quickly of Nico's NIL value? I saw this happening. I'm not surprised.
I mean, it's look, I think we might be jumping the ship on it a little bit because the portal window hasn't, I think it opens today, maybe.
No, it opened Monday.
Oh, it opened Monday. Okay.
Yeah. What do you mean? I don't know that term, jumping the ship.
We might be reporting on something a little too quickly. Like we're hearing these reports on his NIL value, but then something could shock you where somebody offers him a ton of money and then he can walk away and say, hey guys, told y'all I was right to leave. But it doesn't look good for him right now. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case. We'll see. Jimmy Hyams joins us now. He's a Hall of Famer. If it's a Hall of Fame involving sports in Knoxville, he's in it. Jimmy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Dave. Caleb, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Jimmy?
Nice of you to join the show.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Jimmy, let's dive into this. I realize this is a hop. Well, first, let me backtrack because you and I were texting each other about the Nico thing last week. Just what's your general impressions? And then I want to get into, would Tennessee ever consider bringing him back and some possible parameters that could be put in place? I don't think it's going to happen, but it's fun to talk about.
Well, it's an odd situation. I think the dad is the problem. I actually think Nico's a pretty good kid. I think he's gotten some bad advice. I'm interested to see what he does get in the transfer portal because from reports, the dad's asking for more than $4 million. I don't think they'll get anything near that. He's also damaged goods from the perspective of people don't want to deal with his dad and his pseudo agent. So and not only that, I don't think Nico's that good. Y'all know that I've been one of those pump the brakes. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. I don't think he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country. And I don't think he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. And I don't think he's a quarterback that can take you, put him on his shoulders and lead you to the championship. I don't think he's that good. So I'll be curious to see where it goes. The fact that he missed the practice and went dark on everybody after going to the quarterback meeting on Thursday night at Joey Halsey's house. And then, of course, the no-show at the orange and white game. He's lost the locker room at Tennessee. Lost it. There's no way he can return to Tennessee because those players don't want him back. So even if he came back and apologized, he is never going to wear a Tennessee uniform again, in my opinion.
Okay, I agree with you, but for hypothetical funsies, let's dive into this. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Play to win. Trust me, banksandjones.com.
Today's tough question. Boom. You heard that. Now take it. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun.
All right, here we go, Jimmy. I'm going to throw some possible parameters, and I'm trying to bring Nico back. Not really, but kind of. Okay, so he tells his dad to step off. He absolutely takes control of his future and his present and says, Big Nick, you got a big go. and I'm done with you. Would there be any sense from Tennessee that they would possibly take him back?
I don't think so. And I think not only did he anger his teammates and he lost the locker room, he angered the head coach. And it's really hard to tick off Josh Heupel. He's a pretty affable guy. But when you no-show, when you disconnect, when you don't allow yourself to be contacted by your head coach, I think he's lost it with Josh Heupel. So I don't think Tennessee would take him back under any circumstance.
So, Jimmy, even if he says, let me add to the hypothetical. He comes to Josh Heupel, full apology, and says, look, this was my dad. I have cut ties with him. He's not running the show anymore. And I am sorry for how this worked out. It was tough for me to do it, but I got to do it. And then to say, I'm willing to publicly apologize to the team and say, this is me now. I am not my father. I'm here to lead you guys. I love Tennessee, and I'm my own man now, and I apologize for how everything went down, but just know that it wasn't me.
Do you realize the odds of that happening?
That's
hypothetical game here, Jimmy. If that were to happen.
Okay. In this 1 in a million scenario,
yeah.
I still don't think that they would take him back because I don't think they would trust him. I think they lost the trust, and that's a big factor. And I also think that even though you say, hey, my dad's screwed this up, I'm divorcing from my dad, I don't think they would believe that either. So I think you've lost the trust factor. You've lost the teammates, the locker room. So even with all of what you said, I do not think Tennessee would take him back. Oh, and by the way, is he going to say, and I only want $2.7 million?
All right. Right. Well, let me take this another hypothetical direction. What if what if Nick, and then we'll kind of move on. What if Nick, the dad, came to Josh Heupel and said, my bad, me, I made a mistake. Obviously, I've learned that my son's not worth what he thinks he's worth or what I think he's worth because he's getting $1 million offers, not even 2 or 3 or 4. Do you think if Nico Iamaleava came to Josh Heupel that Josh Heupel would even consider it?
No, because I don't think they trust Nick either. Why would you? Here's a guy that's been shopping his son around. He called Oregon, I don't know, a week ago or so to shop him around. He shopped him around in December, trying to see what kind of a deal he could get at that point. So why would you believe or trust anything that the dad would say? I wouldn't. So, and now all right, let me throw a hypothetical.
Okay.
Tennessee says, okay, you're going to come back, but we're only going to pay you $500,000 because that's all you're worth.
Okay. Now that to me makes some sense in our hypothetical world because then you'd have more money to spend on other guys.
Yeah.
And I think we all would agree that regardless of what we individually think about Nico, he's better than Merkling or McIntyre right now.
Oh, yes. Agreed.
So, man, if you had a $1.5 million, jump in there, Caleb. I'm sorry. If you had $1.5 million and a solid quarterback, I would have to consider it and put my emotions to the side, Caleb.
Yeah, and Jimmy, by the way, I just want to point this out. Like, who remembers the Seinfeld episode where George quits his job and then shows up for work the following Monday? Because that's what we're talking about here. That's where I was kind of leading. And I mean, Jimmy, isn't that a way to kind of win back the locker room to say that I love this place so much? And I'm sorry for how my dad strung me along and was using me for more money that I'm willing to play for significantly less than even my market value on the open market because I just want to play for Tennessee and I want to send that message that I really do want to play for Tennessee.
We are really going down the hypothetical trail now. What if he gives money to play for Tennessee? What if he pays for his own schooling, which he doesn't go to class?
I'm not going there, but yeah, I am.
All right, I give up. Take him back. Okay.
bring him on back.
Okay, let me some different angles here.
Sorry.
I still understand the hypothetical. If that occurred and he apologized to the coaching staff, he apologized to the team and the fan base, by golly, he's got to apologize to them as well.
Yeah.
And he took a whole lot less money. Okay, because you will be a better team with Nico. You will be. All right. But again, there is no way Nico is going to separate from his dad.
I agree with that.
So, but
and you may be able to help me with this, Jimmy. I don't know. I've covered Polynesian players before, but somebody reached out to me via Facebook and said that part of the heritage there is the utmost respect for your parents and adhering to their wishes. I hadn't heard that before. Are you aware of that at all?
Yes, it happened with Henry To'o
Okay.
because he didn't want to leave Tennessee, and his dad said, "Yeah, you're leaving," and so he ended up at Alabama. So, yeah, the dads basically run the family in the Polynesian culture.
Certainly not the case in my household.
Let me talk about from
You're
a
not Polynesian.
That's right. I'm pretty white.
Yeah.
Let's talk specifically from a ball perspective, though. I get getting the locker room, but I mean, Jimmy, is there's no chance that Tennessee can. I know you're not that high on Nico, but there's no real chance Tennessee's going to have a better quarterback than they would have had in Nico in the fall, right? At this point,
I would agree with that. I don't think they can find a better quarterback than Nico. I've been surprised before. I mean, what if they bring in this, I don't know, Luke Altmaier from Illinois, who started his career at Ole Miss? Could he be as good as Nico? He's a different kind of guy, and he doesn't run the ball that much. Could he be as good as Nico? Probably pretty close. You would have to tweak your offense a little bit because you wouldn't run your quarterback as much. But to your question, I doubt Tennessee will find a quarterback in the portal better than Nico.
The unfortunate part to me with all this is I don't believe we ever saw Nico's top end and his potential. Today's tough question: would you even consider bringing Nico Iamaleava back? We'll get the answer to our poll question, which is on the YouTube page. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thanks, Coop. Can we get an update on the poll question there, Caleb? Oh, you're muted, Mike, you rookie.
I did mute it. Wow.
Oh my gosh. He's had a cold, so I've been on him, Jimmy, about coughing into the mic because it blows my headphones up. And now he just turns the mic off.
Hey, does your poll question have like 5 hypotheticals in it, like you threw at me?
It's just a straight up, would you accept Nico Iamaleava back? And without the hypotheticals, still 26% say yes, but yeah, 74% are saying no.
I believe that, Jimmy, I believe that's more about empathy for the young man than it is about his play. I think Tennessee's fan base and the coverage that the media has provided, because we kind of dig in a little bit more, and with NIL, a lot of these discussions have become more public. I think most Tennessee fans feel sorry for the young man.
I don't know about most.
Okay.
I'll say this: I kind of feel sorry for him.
I do
because
too.
I think his dad's the problem. And I mean, how many issues have you heard about Nico? And you may be getting to this in another segment, but how many issues have you heard about Nico with his teammates? That he wasn't a good teammate. He came in as a 5-star, making all this money. And I didn't hear a lot of jealousy stories from people, including from the voice we heard earlier, Cooper Mays. Cooper talked about how he came in humble, showed humility, didn't come in like, hey, I'm all that. Didn't come in like he was this big star. Came in, wanted to learn, worked hard, did the right things. That's what I heard about Nico from his teammates. Now, did that change at some point? I don't know. But I don't think the teammates disliked him, unless y'all know something I don't.
No.
I think this is driven by his dad. And I think as more Tennessee fans find this out, learn this, or know this, that there would be more empathy toward Nico. But right now, I'm not sure if I think it's 50-50 or better in Nico's favor.
No, I can see that. And then some news, as we'll change gears here, Caleb, a little bit. Some news coming out via Adam Sparks and some other places, Adam of the Knoxville News Sentinel, that I believe are nitpicking Nico a little bit. I'm of the same contention that you are, Jimmy, that he was for the most part a good teammate. But now we hear that maybe he missed some television production meetings. Let's kind of break these down one at a time if you don't care.
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't miss those. But James Pierce didn't visit with the media his entire time at Tennessee, and I've defended him. So to me, it would be hypocritical not to defend Nico. If he doesn't want to talk, that's not his job. His job's to throw a football. So,
well, him missing a TV production meeting, that doesn't have any impact on his teammates. So what? They don't care.
Agreed.
So I don't think that that's just I don't know why he missed it. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if he was told to do it. I don't know if he screwed up his schedule, but I don't think his teammates give a flip about whether he missed a TV production meeting. Do you?
No, I don't think they care at all. I don't think they were probably even aware of that. I do wonder if it undermines the confidence that Josh Heupel had in him, because you're not showing up to stuff you're supposed to be at. So, like, obviously not showing up to practice is not a straw on a camel's back. It's like a 2x4. But I do wonder if he could have survived the 2x4 if he didn't have other issues, which also reportedly include him negotiating before the Ohio State playoff game. What do you make of that?
Okay, so let's distinguish the negotiating before the Ohio State game.
Okay.
I do think that there was an effort from his camp to get more money because of Miami's situation. Okay. But I do not believe that he was going to hold out of the Ohio State game for more money.
Okay.
So let's distinguish those two. Think of the damage that you would do if you sat out the Ohio State game because you demanded more money, even though you have a written contract.
Oh,
I understand the contract's not binding, but if you're willing to sit out a college football playoff game, then why in the world, as a head coach at some other school, do I want you?
Never. It's about 100 times worse than missing a Friday practice.
So negotiating to get more money before the game, yes, but not to sit out that game for more money. Okay.
So with that in mind, I am going to nitpick a little bit to be a little bit different from you guys. I want to bring up a couple of things, but first I want to talk about the TV production meeting. I get your point, Dave, about James Pierce, but guys, let's just put this out there. I mean, doesn't any team, don't you hold a quarterback to a much, much higher standard than you do an edge rusher? An edge rusher, you just expect them to grab their lunch pail and go to work. Don't you expect the quarterback to have a certain different level of intangibles for your team?
Yes, you do. But how does that affect the team that he didn't show up for a TV production meeting?
Well, isn't it just kind of one of those, like, you expect your quarterback to be out front for your team?
Yeah,
I guess, for that matter. Now, from the other side, Jimmy, what do you make of this report, which I had heard yesterday that there was some talk that Nico was always, like, from the start of spring practice. Now, this is a rumor, and the source is not the most reliable, but there is a rumor that Nico may have been planning on leaving all of spring, pretty much, that this was plotted from the start of spring practice. What do you make of that?
I would say no to that, because if Tennessee had caved and gave him $4 million, he wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
But do you think that –
Go ahead, Caleb.
Sorry, I just want to do a follow-up, because we know that there was negotiations in the winter portal. Do you think that they knew that Tennessee wasn't going to give him the $4 million by the time spring practice started?
No.
So they still thought they had leverage.
Here's one thing that we really haven't discussed, and that is just the gall by the family or the agent, whoever it is, to think that you can contact schools up and down the West Coast, which I'm told they did, and not expect that to get back to Josh Heupel. We heard Kirby Smart just recently talking about how agents will come to him and they've got packages on possible transfer portal guys. And Kirby Smart goes, some of those are my players. So the fact that you think it's not going to get around just shows how ignorant you are to the process.
Let me go back and address what Caleb had asked about in regard to the family. I think it's possible that the family was getting mixed messages. I think it's possible that the collective was telling the family, we can get you the money. And I think that was without the knowledge of the Tennessee football camp. So that's why I think That's why I don't think that the Nico camp thought that they all along that they were going to get the money, because I think that they were led to believe there was more money. Now, $4 million, I don't know about that, but I think that they thought they were going to get more money because I think they were told by some people that they would.
Okay, well let's play a little bit of blame pie. Who gets the biggest piece? Is it Nick Iamaleava? Is it Nico? Is it Josh Heupel? Is it Spire? I think it's Nick. Who's second, Jimmy?
Well, it's certainly not Heupel, because he did the right thing, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Because if you caved in, you're going to have 30 more players on your doorstep want more money.
Yep.
And you don't have that kind of money, regardless of what some people say. They don't have $40 million to throw around. So, and I hate to say it's Spire, because the information I was given, I don't know if it's 100% accurate. So it's not fair for me to blame somebody for something that I don't know concretely is the truth. So I'm going to go with the number 2 person to blame by default being Nico. Even though I think he's got an overbearing parent that he is not going to contest, I would go with him. And I know we're all different, and I never grew up in a situation like that. Dave, you know, I grew up, my father was killed when I was a year old. So I never grew up in a situation where I had anybody that was overbearing telling me what to do. But I'm pretty hard-headed.
No.
And I would have butted heads with anybody that told me how to live my life. I would have.
I can vouch for that. I've been around Jimmy enough. So go ahead. Bud Ford's aware of that too. Go ahead, Caleb.
I'm hard-headed about the things I think are right. So.
Let's dive. Well, Jimmy, what about this? And David, you can jump in too with your thoughts. So we had Will West on last Friday, and this was before we knew that he was hitting the portal. It was live on the show that we found out he wasn't at practice. But his theory was that a third party trying to force hands-on negotiation was the one who leaked the report to Pete Nakos and On 3 Thursday. Some other reporting I got is, what if it's not Spire Sports, but what if it's just the agent of the Iamaleava family? What if the agent's telling them, I can get you guys this money? And what if he's shopping them around? There were some reports I had read on Monday that he was shopping the Nico Iamaleava around behind Nick and Nico Iamaleava's back to these schools on the West Coast.
Oof.
So,
okay.
And we hear, and Jimmy, I know you know that Nick Saban ranted about agents are all but predatory in college football right now. How valid could that story be?
I don't know. Is it possible? It is possible. I don't know that pseudo agent guy. He's not really an official agent, but he's an advisor to him, right? So if it's really hard for me with my journalistic background to start taking shots at people when I don't know 100% the truth. No. So, but is it possible what you said? Yeah, I can't rule that out. And if he did it, he was wrong to do that. But without knowing it completely, I can't sit here and cast aspersions toward him.
The other,
go ahead, Caleb.
Sorry, David. I know I just have to throw this other one. The other thing that we haven't talked about, elephant in the room, is TJ Hushmanzada, who's very close to the Nico family, said over the weekend that more than anything, this was actually about a football thing, whereas they wanted Josh Heupel to incorporate more pro-style elements into his offense to prepare Nico for the NFL, because according to Hushmanzada, former Tennessee players are coming back telling people that this offense did not prepare them at all for the NFL.
Yeah, I've heard some of that. The same, Hushmanzada also said that the family wanted, it wasn't about money, it was about getting more better receivers and better offensive linemen. Now, if you believe that, you're a fool.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if Tennessee had said, okay, we'll pay you $4 million, it doesn't matter who your receiver or offensive line are, he's coming back.
Exactly. I've heard that too, and I think it's so funny. I think Nick Iamaleava would be okay if you had to shoot 2 offensive linemen in the leg to get Nico more money.
Yeah.
I mean, I barely mean that as an exaggeration. He's so short-sighted. His kid is going to make more in the NFL if he's properly prepared, if he doesn't undermine him. And still he could stay at Tennessee and make $2.5 million for 2 more years. That's $5 million. If you're not financially independent, when you pocketed close to $8 million, then what are you spending your money on?
Yeah. Here's the thing too. You knew the system when you signed up as a high schooler. It's a 4-year contract, right? I think
Yes.
we all agree it's a 4-year deal. 1 year he got paid in high school, 3 years at Tennessee. That was the contract he agreed to. Not binding, but that was a contract worth about $8 million. You knew the system coming in. Okay. So now are you looking at Hendon Hooker and saying, I don't know, that system doesn't. But why would you expect Heupel to change a system that's been highly successful for him, that led the nation in scoring and yards in 2022, that he's going to go change his system for you? Well, that's a pipe dream. So,
Well, and it's sorry.
Go ahead.
It's also, that's just a choice you make as a quarterback, right? You can either go to a school where you're going to put up video game numbers, which will turn you into a high draft pick, or you can go to be developed for the NFL. I mean, it's no different than the 90s, is it, Jimmy, where you could go play for Spurrier and put up big numbers, or you can go play for David Cutcliffe and it'll prepare you for the NFL. One or two, right?
Yeah. And so you knew that going in, or you should have known it going in. So,
right. But coaches don't have the power to keep you there, which I think may be problematic in Josh Heupel's future. What if this becomes the norm and players get there, whether it's Merkling or McIntyre or whoever, and they're like, I'm not being prepared for the NFL. That could be like remember the Jeff Tedford, like he couldn't produce a great quarterback until Aaron Rodgers, and all of his quarterbacks fell apart in the NFL. If that turns out to be Heupel's reputation, he needs to manage that.
Yeah, and I'm reminded of Texas Tech when they had quarterbacks that were putting up video game numbers. And so it's like, man, that system doesn't prepare you for the NFL. Sonny Crumble, Graham Harrell. I know I'm missing some others. And then along came Patrick Mahomes. And how is he done? So I guess if you're a good enough player or a great player, that doesn't matter as much. I don't know. But you don't hear that talk about Texas Tech's offense anymore since what Mahomes has done.
Yeah,
so
you do not.
That's a great point, Jimmy. And I would venture to ask you that. Like, even like people said that about Spurrier in Florida in the 90s with Warfel and Grossman and all these quarterbacks, although Grossman did go to a Super Bowl. But are we overrating the system and not just paying attention to whether or not the quarterback is good? Like, did it matter where Peyton Manning went? He was going to make it to the NFL, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think that. And I think that of a lot of quarterbacks that have done very well in the NFL. I mean, look at Jaden Daniels. He's at Arizona State, and then he goes to LSU. And Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow, his first year at LSU, he was pretty good. And then his last year, he was phenomenal. The same with Jaden Daniels. He was good his first year at LSU. Then his next year, he's phenomenal. Both of them won a Heisman Trophy. So I think a lot of it gets back to just how good is a dadgum quarterback as opposed to the system.
Jimmy, I want to ask your biggest off-season, off the field, off the court stories that you've ever covered, because you got a couple of years on me. I'll share mine. I want to remind everyone that portions of the program brought to you by our friends at Ted Russell Ford Lincoln on Parkside Drive and Kingston Pike. No tariffs on those cars, and you will be absolutely pleased with your car. You'll be ecstatic when you drive off the lot knowing you got a great deal and they took care of you, didn't waste your time. I was in and out with my Jeep in 2 hours. So Jimmy's biggest off-court, off-field stories in 30 seconds.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location.
Jimmy, here's my top 4. Number 1, it is Philip Fulmer getting fired. He had won a national championship. Number 2, it's Lane Kiffin leaving. The way he left was scintillating in the middle of the night, and I got to cover a riot. And then 3rd would be what I just saw with Nico. 4th would be Jerry Green drunk on ball calls.
No way.
Well, those are my 4. What's your top 3 or 4?
You said off. Now, Fulmer got fired during the season, so you're counting that?
Well, that would be an off-field development, I guess.
Okay.
So not a game. In other words, the Miracle at South Bend, had I covered that, was an amazing game. So I guess that's why I'm delineated.
Yeah. Well, I got to go back to Johnny Majors.
Yeah.
That was one of the, because he got fired during the season. Also, the whole situation of that year was pretty remarkable. So the ones you mentioned are really good, but I've got to add Majors in that as high on that list as any one I would put, even with Fulmer, because the Majors thing occurred over from the start of the year to the end of the year was a saga. I'll tell you one that was pretty bizarre that you may not remember, but it affected me a lot because I had to spend so much time with it. Do y'all remember the phone fraud of 1995?
I do, and you did a great job of covering that. I was a student at UT, and you didn't know me from Adam, but you did a fantastic job of covering
I don't know this story, and y'all got to tell me this.
I'll try to go briefly. So there were some Tennessee players that got a credit card from one of their not advisors. What am I thinking here, Dave? Help me out.
It was a tutor.
A tutor from one of the tutors. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of that name. So they got it from one of the tutors, and then they used this credit card, and they started making calls all over the country using the credit card, calling their parents, calling people. We even found one of them that called a sex line in Europe. And yes, I'm telling you. So we ended up making a lot of these phone calls trying to figure out who these people were. And that's how we found out it was a sex line in Europe. So I got lied to by multiple people at Tennessee that this is not true. We're not invested. You're wrong. You're barking up the wrong tree. Drop this story. And my source kept telling me to keep digging. So I kept digging through lie after lie after lie. And finally, when I felt like I had enough evidence, I went to the chancellor, who was Bill Snyder. And I said, look, I've been told a lot of different things, but is this true about this phone fraud? He said, yes, it is. And he laid out the whole thing. And I felt like that was one person that wasn't going to lie to me. So then we dug into it and started making all these phone calls. I called one guy, and I don't want to mention his name because he's in the community right now. And I said, look, you made a bunch of these phone calls. And he said, no, I didn't. That was my roommate. And I said, well, who was your roommate? Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, yay.
Okay, right.
Oops.
So, but that was a story that consumed much of my life for months because, Dave, these were thousands. This wasn't a few hundred calls. These were thousands of calls.
Yeah.
That were made.
I remember you having something in the paper pretty much every day for 3 or 4 weeks, it seemed like.
Yeah. So that was one. The reason I bring that up is it consumed my life for so long, and it disappointed me, the number of people that lied to me along the way. But, as one person over there told me, I will lie to protect my players. So,
I think I know who that was. Go ahead, Caleb.
Also a scandal that's would not be possible now because everybody has smartphones. It's you'd have to explain that to people. The weirdest one, the most bizarre one I covered, honestly, and I haven't been around as long as you guys have covering this stuff, but the most bizarre one was the 2016 sexual assault lawsuit against the university and all the twists and turns that took, as you guys remember, from when it started in January. And Jimmy, do you remember that bizarre press conference that all the coaches held after that? And when Butch Jones said that this is hurting us in recruiting, and it was that's the one I remember the most, funny enough, because it was just so poorly handled by the university from a PR standpoint. That
wasn't that a Title IX deal?
Yeah, the bizarre part about that is I remember getting a phone call from my employer at the time saying that, hey, we got to report all this stuff. And I said, no, you don't. It came out when Jimmy Hyams wrote about it from the Knoxville Sentinel. And they said, oh, are you uncomfortable doing it? No, it's old news. And that's when all that stuff came out, right?
Oh, you're thinking one.
Okay, do I have my years mixed up?
No, that lawsuit, what you're talking about, Dave, that lawsuit rehashed the whole Peyton Manning mooning scandal because that was mentioned in the lawsuit. But but the people suing on Title IX, they got annoyed that story was getting covered so much because, like you said, it had been already covered. And they're like, guys, we just mentioned this, but the bigger story is what's been happening on campus in the last 2 years, not Peyton Manning's incident in 1997 or 96.
Right.
Jimmy, have a blessed day, sir. We appreciate you more than you know. And let me know when you can go to lunch, and we'll hit a Mexican place near you or me.
There you go. Dave, thank you. Caleb, thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Love Jimmy's input there. That story about the phone fraud thing. And for those that don't remember, I remember going to my grandparents in Anderson County, Caleb, and my grandfather getting mad at me if I called my parents because it was like 99 cents a minute. Now that's just Anderson County to Knox County. So I'm a little bit
10-10-321, dial 10-10-321 and you can do long distance.
I don't remember that, but I remember every once in a while my grandfather would say, call them collect if you want to call them. And I'm like, just trying to, but that for those that are too young, you may not remember, but you used to have to pay for long distance phone calls. Now, of course, that wouldn't happen, but give us an update on the poll question, Caleb. Before we do that, I want to remind everybody that portions of the program brought to you by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the
Update on our poll question before we get to the stat of the day. Caleb, what do you got?
What hurt Tennessee's fan base more, Lane bolting or Nico leaving? And 82% say Lane bolting. Before we get to the stat of the day, can I just ask you a quick question too?
Yeah, but can you give us an update on the previous poll question, the original one? Today's question: would you consider bringing Nico back? I would have
killed it, and it's way up in the message board, so I don't know. Okay, here we go. Would you accept Nico back? No, 73%. Yes, 26%.
I'm going to go real quickly to that Lane and Nico question, and maybe this is a topic that we dive into tomorrow. I don't think you know yet. I don't think you know how damaging this is to Tennessee's program, because if Tennessee gets a bad reputation in terms of NIL, this could hurt them down the line, just like Lane had a lasting impact because so many players weren't there anymore. I mean, it was a complete roster turnover. So I don't think you know. And I also wonder, how good's Merklinger? If Merklinger's awful, or McIntyre, as you've endorsed, if they're awful, then Tennessee goes 6-6. Then suddenly you're in a whole different place. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's possible. What was our latest poll question, Caleb? Because I'm all over the place.
No, that was the Lane bolting, Nico leaving. I agree. We don't know yet, but Lane bolting didn't just hurt Tennessee. That did damage to Tennessee for a long time afterward.
Let's dive in that tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll dive into that tomorrow.
I'm not just playing devil's advocate. I could see this mushrooming and being as big as that. I really can.
I agree.
We'll do it tomorrow.
So what I wanted to ask you, though, because Jimmy talked about the whole Fulmer major situation, and he was having to, I'm sure, cover those practices. You were obviously covering practices when Fulmer was fired in 2008, but my question is, how awkward? What are when these awkward situations happen? How awkward is it to cover practice when you know that there's some bitterness and resentment amongst people amongst themselves during that time?
It's horrible. I had a coach charge at me like he was going to punch me, to the point where I had to bow up and be ready to fight. It would have been a bad look for both of us. I've had a coach's son call me a super B word, rhymes with rich, on Facebook while I was doing a radio show. Yeah, I mean,
for Fulmer, that was like the assistants. He had so many long-term assistants that it wasn't just his life that was upended by that when he was fired, right? It was like you had these assistants that have been with him for so long that their lives were upended too, right?
That's true, and you felt more sorry for them than you did Philip, because Philip was making, I think, $3.5-4 million at the time. So, but it wasn't as bad as the late '90s, where you had some assistant coaches making $75,000. Then, if the head coach gets fired, they have to go someplace completely different. That was not a good look. And finally, they did multi-year contracts and gave them a raise. It's funny you ask about practice. If I recall correctly, they started closing practice at the end of Fulmer's tenure.
That is kind of funny.
I think it's when they hired Dave Clawson that they also had a new PR guy, if I remember correctly, and they just kind of tweaked it, which was probably fine with us. But I'll share some. You want to hear an Uncle Dave story? Probably my strongest Uncle Dave story.
Sure.
And I've never told this publicly, but I'll go ahead and share it now. I did an interview. I got a call out of left field, and it's because I did an exclusive interview with Inky Johnson after his injury, and it was set up through a coach. The coach knew that Inky wanted to talk. I got suspended for the Alabama game, and everybody trashed me for being too aggressive of a reporter, when in reality, I had the recording where Inky goes, "Hey, Dave, how are you?" So anyway, I write that story, I get suspended, and then the truth comes out that I hadn't done anything wrong. And I think the university wanted to make it up to me, particularly Mike Hamilton, Tennessee's athletic director. So I get a call out of left field. I call every month about an exclusive with the athletic director. And I get a call that he's ready for his interview. And it's like the middle of October. I'm stunned. And I think the quote was, Tennessee is not supposed to be a 6-5 team. So for whatever reason, it was one of the practices I missed that afternoon. And I never missed a practice. I don't know if it was a doctor's appointment or what. But I went to practice the next day, and Philip Fulmer obviously had something on his mind he wanted to talk about. And he said, "Come here." And maybe a curse word in there or two. And then he said, "I just want to let you know that I think what you wrote was total BS." And I had texted Mike Hamilton earlier that morning, and I said, "Mike, I just want to tell you thank you for the time." And he said, "Very fair article. That's all I ask." So Philip was upset about he was getting a different message from Mike in the athletic department than came across in that story. He thought it was unfair. When I showed him that text, Caleb, and I didn't want to be a part of this. I don't want to be a part of this. You never want to be a part of the story. But that's when he knew he was in trouble. And instead of continuing to get mad, just dropped his head and walked off. And sure enough, was it the South Carolina game they lost that would 6-5 at best?
South Carolina game meant they were going to be at best 6-6 after that game.
6. Okay. And it was over. It was over. And Philip knew that. And that I was there that moment. It's not something I'm proud of. I was just doing my job. And it was very palpable, the emotions there. And then we get into I was told by a source that they would be fired at the end of the season. We reported that. John Chavis didn't like that at all. But I don't know how I got off on a tangent there, Caleb, but I just remember, this is real life, and I hated it for them. I don't hate it as much now that they're all making $500,000 or more.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. Nowadays, when you cover it, you almost feel more for the players than the coaches, right? Because the players committed to these coaches. Where I'd love to pick Jimmy's brain is the 92 situation, because Majors is fired. The world knows Fulmer is going to take his job. Majors thinks Fulmer backstabbed him, and they're having to run practices together for 3 weeks, pretty much at the end of the season, if you think about it. And
I'm loving General Ursus. A Super B must be one hell of a hooker. Absolutely.
But also for those who you talk about the staff and the tension there, I know this much, 92, and this is where I also wanted to pick Jimmy's brain. Some things I learned. Sounds like the staff was all on board with Majors going and was fully loyal to Fulmer during that time. I think Majors was really rubbing the staff the wrong way in 1992.
He was. Listen, I talked to an NFL scout, and I don't want to throw Johnny Majors under the bus. I love him. He's the only guy I referred to as coach because I grew up when he was the head coach at Tennessee. And I will tell you this. I had an NFL scout tell me the only 2 coaches that he never heard a good thing about from their assistants was Johnny Majors and Lou Holtz. And he never heard one good thing from their assistants about coaching under them. Doesn't mean he wasn't successful. Travis says transparency is always the best policy. You did Fulmer a favor. I appreciate that. I'm not real happy with how that whole thing went down. But I do think the late Mike Hamilton could have been a little bit more forthright with Philip Fulmer. He wanted Lane Kiffin. And if Lane Kiffin doesn't leave, maybe that all works out. Stat of the day is now, and it's brought to you by Sports Treasures. All right, Caleb, stat of the day. Here we go.
You ready for a crazy stat?
I'm ready for a crazy stat.
With Nico Iamaleava's departure, it guarantees that Tennessee is going to have a new starting quarterback next year, right?
Yes.
That'll be the fourth.
Yeah. I know where you're going.
It'll be the 4th straight season Tennessee has had a new starting quarterback for the majority of the season. That'll be the first time in history Tennessee's gone 4 straight seasons with 4 new starting quarterbacks. Wow. First time in history.
Wow, that's a pretty good one. Sports Treasures carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. They've got daily updates. The link is right down below. Sports Treasures TN. Sports Treasures TN. Smoky Mountain Red, yes. I've made Philip Fulmer mad more than a couple of times. Still, he was more mad. He was mad about that column, but he was more mad about the Jason Witten thing, can play outside and play wide receiver. And I didn't even know I was doing that. I got cursed all the way from here to Baton Rouge.
Yeah, he was madder at Mike Hamilton for that column in 2008, I'm sure, than he was at you.
I don't even think he was mad. I think he was sad.
Oh, you think? Oh, because he knew he was done.
I think there was a realization that it's all about South Carolina. And you never want to have that great of a career and it all rests on one game.
Yeah, and also, I mean, that just messes up practice that week too, right? Like the Wyoming loss had everything to do with Fulmer being fired that Monday, didn't it? The following, like that loss to Wyoming.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of you that wants to say, let's wait till the end of the year to the person you're interviewing, in this case, Mike Hamilton, but that wasn't the case. And Mike, what Mike was doing, he was floating a balloon out there to see the response he got via email. And I was told he felt like the response of firing Fulmer was 60% in favor of, was it an overriding majority, but it was the majority. And that's part of the reason he made his decision. And anytime you take a shot at Lou Holtz, you get on the screen. Holtz comes across as the biggest narcissist on TV. He's the only, well, he's not the only, but he's the only coach I didn't know that dog cussed me. And he gave me a pretty good one for taking too long on an interview that his producer didn't tell me about. 2 minutes. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Caleb, what do we got coming up next?
We're going to still stick on the Nico train. We're going to talk about his NIL value on the market. And I actually have a little bit of breaking news involving Nico that came out before our show started this morning.
All right, a record number of people in there for a weekday show. So please take a second. We greatly appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button, the like button, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We got a lot of big things coming up, including coverage of SEC Media Days and why Tennessee is already a part of a narrative at SEC Media Days that they're probably not going to enjoy. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East.
Ginger Power, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
A little bit of sharing there as delve back into my career. But again, I will say this, the way the whole thing shook out with Nico is right up there, top 3 of off-field issues. And if you want to count the Philip Fulmer as an on-field issue, then it's top 2 with Lane Kiffin. But I thought there were some similarities between Lane and Nico in the suddenness of it. And actually Lane was more sudden than this one, but there was just, and the sense of disbelief. Maybe not as strong with Nico as Lane, but the only two in that universe of disbelief and shock.
Yeah, I agree. Lane Kiffin's shock was like, Nico's was at least you had like a 36-hour preparation for it though, because like it was kind of a drop. Like Lane Kiffin, it was like he's not going. Boom, Lane Kiffin's going to USC. What? And it just kind of threw everybody off for that.
You're absolutely right. Okay, so
let's get to
what do you want to get to?
I want to get to Timothy's super chat real quick.
Okay, good.
Appreciate this, Timothy. He says, I like what Coach JB from Last Chance U Independence said. He said the adults, the donors in the NCAA today's system have failed these kids and they should do away with the portal. The only way they can leave is the coaches leave one time. I think you're talking about how doing away with the portal, Timothy, but also putting a limit on how often coaches can leave. I could see that. I could see how that would.
Well, but there's a slippery slope there. What if Tennessee replaces Joey Halsley with Barry Switzer, who comes out of retirement? They're going to run the wishbone. I mean, do you expect Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre to stick around? I mean, if you change complete philosophies, if you change recruiters, let's say this guy recruited you, you're really close to the assistant coach. I just think that's a slippery slope. I've dove into that before, Caleb. I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, no, I don't either. I don't think there's any way to get around it. There's no way to there's no way to put limits on it, unfortunately. I just wanted to address that from Timothy. I appreciate it, Timothy. Really do appreciate the super chat.
Right.
So
hot or cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. What do you think of that?
No, let's actually dive into this news about Nico in the transfer portal before we get to hot or cold.
Oh, is this breaking news? Are we deviating?
Well, we're altering what we were talking about because we were going to talk about Nico's NIL value on the open market. So Nico Iamaleava's NIL value seemed to be tanking on the open market when it came out on Tuesday and Monday and Tuesday about where he was looking. We had heard Tulane, we had heard UCLA, we had heard North Carolina, we had heard USC, we had heard a few of these schools had pulled out of the sweepstakes, most notably Tulane. Well, reportedly this morning, according to On3, he's entered the transfer portal with a do not contact tag, according to Pete Nakos, which a do not contact tag generally signals, I already know where I'm going. Nobody talk to me. So
okay,
what do we make of this?
Well, I don't think it's that. The do not contact tag, is that like on his Twitter? Is this a function of the transfer portal? Is this on his Twitter account or what?
It's basically on the On3. I don't know exactly where you put the label, but the official do not contact tag is somewhere in the ether, basically. And it's on his tag and On3, but basically, yeah, it basically means do not contact.
I don't think he knows where he's going. He might. That's one possibility. What about this possibility? Nick's a control freak. The dad just likes to run everything. Don't call me, I'll call you. I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility.
No, that's actually true. And in the context of the transfer portal, it can actually mean that. It can also mean that Nico will not be handling any communication. Nico's representatives will be handling all communication. So it either means he's picked the school, or it means that he's not responsible for any communication his representatives are.
If you can pull up his Twitter page real quick, I'm curious what it says there because he blocked me. Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. QualityTirePros.com. Tell Bo at Quality Tire Pros that Dave Hooker and Off the Hook Sports said, hey, Bo, what's the latest thing he's tweeted?
Latest thing he tweeted was a retweet of Omar Norman Lott balling out in the Senior Bowl back in January. He hasn't really been active on Twitter recently. Now, as far as Nick Iamaleava, I don't think he's tweeted anything since he called Pete Nakos B-word Nakos. And so what do we think? Do we think Nico has a school, or do we think this is about Nick telling people don't contact Nico, contact me?
Okay, I'll go bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. I feel pretty strongly on this one. Bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank.
All right, I'm going to bank on it with this, and that I didn't mean to pull that up. I'm going to bank on it with this. Nico will make less money than he was going to make at Tennessee, significantly less. I'll go ahead and say he'll make $1 million less. I think he'll make $1.5 million or less. He was making 2.5 at Tennessee. Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC. Life made better.
I agree. I think he's going to make less too. And I'm going to take it a step further. This is proof. This is why you need actual agents, and Nico's dad totally doesn't know what he's doing. Here's what I think is really happening, Dave. I think Nico Iamaleava fell victim to rumors of other quarterbacks' pay on social media without any proof of what they were actually getting paid. Most notably, I think I don't believe Carson Beck's getting paid $4 million to go to Miami. I don't. I think that's a social media rumor. I don't believe he's actually getting paid that. I think Nico Iamaleava saw that on Twitter and thought Nico Iamaleava can get that too. If Carson
Okay,
Beck's
it wouldn't surprise me if Carson Beck's making that money, because you'd have to say he's one of the top quarterbacks in the nation because of his team success, not necessarily his play. And I could see Miami being top heavy in what they offer, trying to get one splash player, because nearby they've got a ton of athletes that can fill out their roster. So I didn't have a problem with that. I'd be surprised if he's not making more than 2.5, which is the top end of what we think Nico is making.
But I think Nick Iamaleava didn't do his research at all on how much Carson Beck's actually making. I think he's reading news reports and he's going based on that. And so this is where I'm landing. And so I'm with you. He's not going to make $2 million. He's not going to make 2.5. It's going to be $1 to $1.5 million. And it could be less than that. Look, let's talk about what you and I were talking on the phone yesterday, Dave. He had Tulane in his list of schools. There's no way, if he's not desperate, that Tulane is in his list of schools. No.
And really, there's been a lot of UCLA talk, but UCLA, in terms of comparisons to Tennessee, that's a step down significantly. The only tie they have is they're a hometown school. Listen, UCLA is about to get left in the dust. That's going to happen. And he's going to go someplace and make half the money and lose twice as many games this season and not be nearly as happy. I can't help but feel sorry for him. Sorry. And by the way, a comment on our message board, you're absolutely right. The agents should have to pass a test. They do for the NFL and other professional sports leagues, but they don't in college football right now. SC Scout guy has a good idea. Tennessee should go after Jaden Rashada, ultimate redemption story. That's not a bad idea.
One. I'm going to do a post today on the transfer portal quarterbacks Tennessee could target, and we'll talk about that later in the week. But Jaden Rashada is not a bad one. As far as Dave, here's the thing. Let's talk about all right, I'm not trying to fully character assassinate Nico Iamaleava's father, but we know that he's misplayed things and really jeopardized his son's pro potential.
We've already traveled down that path, Caleb.
Yes.
I mean, it is what it is. He's tweeting. He has his own voice. We're not hearing it through sources. He's a jackwagon.
Yes, he is. Let's tell this story. Are we sure he's costing Nico money, or is he costing himself money? Are we sure he's not just taking that money from Nico for himself?
Probably.
I mean, I just want to put out there, are we sure that Nick Iamaleava is not collecting most of the money he's negotiating for Nico for himself? And maybe the reason he's doing all this, how about this? Let me throw this out there. Maybe the reason he's doing all this and jeopardizing Nico's NFL future is because this is his best chance to take the money for himself. Once Nico goes pro, that's Nico's money, and he knows that he can't take much of it. I mean,
it's viewed as family money. I've seen this before with like travel baseball and stuff. I mean, you commit that much time and money to your son becoming this superstar, then I don't have a problem with you expecting some money back as long as the players kosher with it. I also don't think you should mess with his future and his career. You should sit back and let the checks come in. But you got a situation here where, and I didn't know about the heritage part of the Polynesian thing, that you're supposed to be incredibly loyal to the father and he's supposed to run the show. I don't know. I mean, I have trouble pointing fingers and knocking Nico for not being tough enough. If that's how he was raised from a social standpoint, a religious standpoint, that would be the equivalent to saying to a Christian, no, you don't have to live by the 10 commandments. You don't have to be saved. Jesus didn't die on the cross. I mean, this is deep-seated stuff, which just makes me feel more and more sorry for Nico, honestly.
It's also, we don't even want to say, Polynesians are, Nico Iamaleava's family is as American, they're as deep-rooted as American as anybody else in this country. But there are certain segments, particularly of immigrant communities, non-continental United States, continental United States, which is the 48 states, not Alaska and Hawaii. People that are only 1 or 2 generations removed from being in that, they typically, like you just said, it's much more about family money to build like a family, not a family wealth. And then once they get, and then after that, it's more individualized. Now, people are making a great point about UCLA. We're forgetting this. Nick Iamaleava forced his son Madden to transfer out of UCLA to go to Arkansas. So would UCLA take Nico at that point?
Probably not. He probably doesn't want him to go there. He's burned more bridges than Sherman going through the South.
He really has.
I mean, it's unbelievable how in just, what's he been on campus for 2 years, 2.5 years? How many bridges he's burned, not just in Tennessee, but everywhere.
Well, David, here's the thing. I think it's getting known, and we're going to talk a little bit about coaches commenting on this, but I think the toxic nature of Nico and his father is known among coaches now, because let's be honest, tampering's happening in college football all over the place. Dan Lanning's getting a lot of respect for telling Tennessee about what Nico did. I think the reason Dan Lanning did that, though, is Dan Lanning knows about Nico's family and wants nothing to do with them anyway, so this is a way for him to buy goodwill. Like, do you think he's doing this if there's a quarterback he wants that's tampering with Oregon?
No. I'll tell you this, too. Timothy, thanks for the super chat. We're not going to pull that up because you got kind of a graphic term there. But thank you. That'll go to Caleb Calhoun's son, Quincy Calhoun's college fund. Jimmy said something that made me light up a little bit. I think this may be more agent-driven because an agent makes 5%. Okay? So let's say to make the math easy, he's making $100,000. Sometimes it's lower. Sometimes it's 3%. So it could be $60,000 off a $2 million contract. I could see the aggressiveness from an agent to go all in. I might lose this $50,000 for this upcoming year, but I could gain $200,000 if I get him a big raise. So, Caleb, I could see that, whereas Nico and Nick are looking at it, hey, we're bringing home 95%. We don't want to risk that. I could see it getting out of Nick's control.
I mean, this is what we just talked about, the problem with agents. And as we talked about, agents aren't certified. And if this agent's not like certified or passed the test, he's not going to be an NFL agent. So he doesn't really care about what Nico's doing to his NFL value by doing this. It's all about what Nico can get him on the college level. You're absolutely right about this. And this is where, at what point, Dave, are college athletes going to get at some point, you got to find an agent coming out of high school that will stick with you through your college and NFL career, because then he has the incentive for your whole future, right?
That's what Spire Sports was going to be. I thought they were going to try to evolve into a professional sports agency.
I could see that too. I don't understand why they wouldn't do that. And look, this is going. Nico's team is still, by the way, insisting that they have options, that they're pretending to have options, but I think we're kind of getting out there that they don't really have options. And like, as much as if you're Nico Iamaleava, as much trust as you have in your father, at what point when you're not playing this year because nobody will take you, do you say, that's it, I got to think about my future, you're screwing me? And I get what people talk about with the Polynesian culture and things like that, but that's a lot of cultures, by the way. It's not just like, there's so many cultures. Hell, David,
there's not a culture where you say stick it to your dad.
Yeah, there's not a culture where you just ignore your dad. So we're saying this is like a cultural thing, and it's like, no, and most, that it's funny you brought up the 10 Commandments. That's one of the commandments, funny enough, honor your father and your mother. So it's like there's a lot of cultures that are, you listen to your parents and you let them think about what's best for you. But the other part of the culture is, whatever culture you're in, is once you're an adult and you make decisions for yourself. Nico's 19 turning 20. His dad is screwing him now. I agree with you. The simplest terms on this is he's going to make less on the open market.
Oh, he's going to make 50% less.
Yes.
I mean,
And he's going to he's torching his NFL draft stock at the same time.
I don't think NFL coaches will have as big of a problem with it as you do. Portions of the program brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com, RickTerryJewelry.com. And I say that because I think NFL coaches are egotistical, and I think they could take anybody. Tony Mandrich, maybe before your time, offensive lineman, played for Michigan State. He was like 320 pounds, juiced up on steroids, could do everything. He was on the front of Sports Illustrated, was a total bust. But if you had that sort of talent, NFL coaches believe in you because they believe in themselves, probably to a fault. This day in Tennessee sports history is brought to you by our fantastic friends at Newbert Collision Center.
This day in Tennessee sports history.
It's cool, baby. It's cool.
Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
All right, brought to you by Newbert Collision Center. For nearly 50 years, Newbert Collision Center has been East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. JoeNewbertCollision.com, JoeNewbertCollision.com. Caleb, what do you got?
On this day, we're speaking of quarterbacks, and we're speaking of drama saga with quarterbacks. Ironically, today is the 10-year anniversary of when Jared Guarantano committed to Tennessee. Funny
that was
enough.
a big deal. Remember, he was at Times Square.
Yeah, it was.
His picture up and all that sort of stuff. I got another topic for tomorrow. Chris says, I can see a scenario Nico sits out the year and preps for the NFL draft. Is that his best option? It might just be. Tennessee is hot and heavy on the transfer portal basketball circuit. We'll give you some names you need to know. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We broadcast from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. Your vehicle is going to be fantastic when you drive it off that lot. TedRussellFord.net, TedRussellLincoln.net. The used selection is unbelievable, and the customer service, they'll get you in and out of there, and you'll be so happy with your purchase, whether it's new, pre-certified, used. It's all right there. No tariffs on those cars. We don't know how long that's going to happen. Stay tuned. Some hoops news, more on Nico with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute.
Like the name, but serious or something. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun, represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
No non-contact tag here. We want to hear from you. Jump on board now as the message board is wild and woolly. Nacho says, take him back for $1 million. That would be amazing. Yeah, in terms of content for this show, it would be fantastic. I don't know what would be the brightest thing for Josh Heupel to do. Ultimately, I think he would evaluate that just in terms of how far is the drop-off from Nico, to Merklinger, or McIntyre. If you think it's significant, you need to eat some crow and take him back if he'll take less money. But those are a lot of ifs, Caleb. We're talking about two guys, and I don't mean this is in a bad way, with big egos. I mean, you have to have a big ego to do what Josh Heupel does. You have to be a big – well, you don't have to have a big ego, but he does have a big ego, Nico Iamaleava. So the chances of them backtracking, I think, is pretty small, Caleb.
Yeah, I don't think either side's going to backtrack. I mean, both sides really took a strong stance right now, and honestly, Nick's clearly got an ego, so he's not going to want to look stupid, basically, and he would have to look stupid to come back for less money at that point. So,
let's get to
dude is not very bright. I'm just going to say it. Nico's father.
Agreed. I do not think it's just an ego thing. I think it's an intelligence thing.
Yeah,
we do. And you can say he's ignorant because NIL is new, but you don't tell your son not to go to practice. That's just pure stupid.
Blatant stupidity.
I mean,
like
not even debatable.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Like very clear stupidity.
And I've known players that have gotten punched by a coach, players that have gotten hit, players that have gotten by another player with their helmets off, dog cussed, and they all showed up to practice the next day. They did.
Yeah. No.
I mean, Albert Toina left practice in the middle of it as Philip Fulmer was getting fired and came back the next day just in time to leave the Vanderbilt field or leave Tennessee's field after beating Vanderbilt and allegedly spit on a cameraman, which was not true. But nevertheless, that was my dealings with the Polynesian family as they were so emotional that their son got accused of that. It was literally me, them in a conference room with a drop screen and a projector. They were showing me video of how he did not spit at that cameraman, and he was mischaracterized. Let's just say Philip Fulmer was not happy that video existed because he'd already kicked him off the team.
Oh, I could imagine.
Yeah.
Like,
damn it, Dave. What did he say? What? Damn it, Dave. What was on the video? All right. Let's turn it to coaches are reacting to Nico and Tennessee's decision to part ways with him, which is largely being placed on the shoulders of the Iamaleava family. Hot or cold, we'll break this down, but the consensus is what from coaches that are sharing their opinions via the social media?
Lots of support for Josh Heupel from any type of coaches to the young, hot, rising up-and-comers to the ones that are very successful right now to ones that may be on the hot seat to Hall of Famers who have retired.
Okay. Let's get to Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. We'll bring you those comments now.
Where do you stand? Hot or cold? Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters. 50 years in East Tennessee. cityheatandair.com. On Off the Hook Sports.
Yeah, we do need a Damn It Dave shirt. That's a pretty good one. Bring Gaston Moore back. I'm all for it. I don't know where he is now, but I think he'd be the starter if he was on Tennessee's roster. All right, so what do we got from different coaches around the league and around the nation?
Yes, we're going to start with Notre Dame coach Marcus Freeman, and I will share as many of these clips with you guys as I can. So we're starting with Marcus Freeman, and I can share that one. This is what he said about the situation on 3. Here we go, right here, Marcus Freeman, the Notre Dame's coach, talking with J.D. Pickle.
Situation that became public, but I think it happens all over the country, right? And that, you know, I think you have representatives for players and you know, representatives for the university that are kind of having those discussions, but that one was a public one. The reality is our players getting compensated, deserve to get compensated. You know, what you don't want to do is what I'm sure you've heard many coaches say is you don't want players to make a temporary decision based off a temporary situation that's going to affect them long term, right? And that transactional decisions aren't always the best ones for your future. And you know, I think every situation's different. Every football program's different. But at the end of the day, you want to do what's right for college football, between what's right for college football, also what's right for our players. But you don't want this public disagreement to really tarnish what's so good about.
Yeah, and along those lines, I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee's having similar discussions or was having similar discussions with another player, and they're far apart on money. And I do think the way Josh Heupel handled the Nico situation, if those players were thinking to themselves, I'll just jump in the transfer portal and force his hand, I think you're less likely to do that now, because Josh Heupel has said he won't stand for it with his most important players. So what if you're a defensive tackle? He's going to let you go.
Yeah, but see, I'm cold on what Marcus Freeman said, because it just felt like he was being a little too fair to Nico, and he was trying to say this is happening everywhere. This one was just public. I don't buy that. I don't think there was this much of a misplay among quarterbacks with their father elsewhere. So I'm cold on what Marcus Freeman said there.
Okay, well, I'm actually hot.
That's hot.
I think he hit the nail on the head. Who's next?
Shane Beamer, a brilliant assessor of coaches and players, says that, and someone who has never ever cheated when facing Tennessee, but said that he saw it. His exact quote was, "I saw it like everybody. I'm not trying to avoid the question. I've got my own program to think about, and that's what I'm trying to do. It's unfortunate and don't know the whole story and who was told what and everything. Got a lot of respect. Don't know the quarterback. Got a lot of respect for Coach Heupel and how he does things and the people in that program. I spent 3 years there and know a lot of people still in the building that are in different roles. So I got a lot of respect for the whole organization." Very cagey on that, but I'm hot on it because that's probably how Josh Heupel would comment on it if he was commenting on another school.
Yeah, and I'm hot on it too. I believe him.
That's hot.
Because he knows Tennessee. He knows there's more than just NIL money to play for, which probably isn't the case at South Carolina. I mean, let's face it. If Tennessee needed to make a coaching change in a couple years, they called Shane Beamer, he would absolutely be all about coming to Knoxville. Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. 30 seconds and then more comments from coaches around the nation with Nico Gate 2025.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
All right, Caleb, who's next?
Dan Lanning, the Oregon coach, who was obviously the one who contacted Tennessee about Nico contacting him. He commented on whether or not the character of Tennessee, saying the team is whether the character of Tennessee is saying the team is above the individual. His question was, if a player is asking how many snaps are going to play for Oregon next year, Dan Lanning goes, how many snaps am I going to play for Oregon next year? 0. It doesn't matter what I know. It's about what your players know and what they can execute. There's a lot of negatives around what people talk about, like the portal and how that exists. Truth is, the portal is revealing a lot of character programs. And here you have a relationship with your coach. There's a connection. You feel like you can talk to this guy about stuff beyond football. And I think that relationship is really important. It's not coach-player. It's coach-player. And that's the guy that has to go execute. That means he has to love the guy that he's playing for. He's got to believe in what we're doing. How do you create belief? Guys want to know the why today, and basically talking about this is all about the coach-player relationship. And I'm hot on that too. I think because yeah, the Nico Heupel relationship was very underrated. I think they were much closer than we give them credit for.
I'm back and forth on this. I'm straddling the fence because I think that Nico used that relationship as a way of smoothing things over when his dad was being a jackwagon. I think that he was great friends, but at the end of the day, Caleb, you and I are friends. But at the end of the day, if I don't support you in something as important as this that could affect your future, then I'm not a great friend. So I'm going to say that's not hot. I'm going to say that's cold. Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, because if you're a great friend to somebody, you're in it through thick and thin. You go to Pops and you say, Pops, I don't want to do this, and that didn't happen.
That is probably true, but again, sometimes you can be a great friend, and then it's hard to break from your parents. Let's just say that.
Yep.
All right, Old Ball Coach comes in and gives his own comments on another Dooley Noted podcast with Pat Dooley. We've had Pat Dooley on this show. Here is what Steve Spurrier said about this situation.
So it'll be interesting to see who picks him up. But Tennessee, I think they did the right thing. They said, hey, we had a deal for 4 years, I think they had with him, and now he wanted to up in it, and they said, no, we're not going to do that. So they're looking for a quarterback. Tennessee, they've already admitted it. So many.
I just wonder how Steve Spurrier would have handled this. I don't think he would have had any patience for this whatsoever.
Steve Spurrier was very well aware that he could take average quarterbacks and make them great. And I think Steve Spurrier, as you have told me plenty of times, the only rule in Steve Spurrier's system as a quarterback is you have to be willing to get hit, right? If you're willing to get hit, he'll make you good. He'll make you good, right?
I don't believe that he would tolerate these NIL shenanigans from some of his best players. I mean, the Curses of the world, the Gaffneys of the world. I don't think he would have tolerated this from anybody.
No, I don't think so either. I think that's a very good point.
But you're right. Probably the quarterback at Florida was not the most important guy. You needed a playmaker that could make him look better. And in Florida's case under Spurrier, they had a ton of them.
I mean, multiple times from like the late 90s, he was alternating Jesse Palmer, Doug Johnson, Rex Grossman. I mean, he didn't really care, honestly. And so, no, I agree. So a couple more, Steve Sarkeesian, and then we'll go to the final one. But Steve Sarkeesian talked about his quote. I think it's a difficult decision for Nico and his family. It's a difficult one for Coach Heupel in Tennessee and what they're trying to do. You know, ultimately, we all have so much money to operate with, and we're all trying to build a team. And that's one of the beautiful things about football. It's the ultimate team sport. It's no different than if you were in the NFL. I'm cold on this. I think that's a dumb quote. I think that it works. It's working totally different than the NFL right now. And Steve Sarkeesian knows that.
Yep, I can roll with that. Coming up on the program. Yes.
Yeah, there's one more.
Oh, sorry.
I saved the most fiery one for last. Mario Cristobal, who I am not high on, and who did just open up a checkbook for Carson Wentz, funny enough. So we can see what we think of him saying this. But here's what Mario Cristobal said on the situation.
We're not going to do that at Miami. And I say that without any hesitation. You know, if anyone's thinking that, and they could be the best player in the world, if they want to play holdout, they might as well play.
Hold out, get out. I like that. Clever.
I'm not buying it. He went and bought Carson Beck in the offseason from Georgia when Carson Beck was holding out from Georgia. So I'm cold on that.
Listen, I don't believe any coach says he's not going to renegotiate. You're going to some extent. Tennessee got Nico from, we believe, 2 to 2.2 or 2.5 million. They renegotiated with him to some extent. Every coach is going to do that. It's just the way the game's played. It's not fair. It's not right. But the contracts are not binding. So that's just where you are. Now, you're not going to necessarily, if Carson Beck comes to them before the season and says, I'm not starting the season opener unless you double my pay, then you're telling him to kick rocks, right?
Right. No, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. We'll take a look at some basketball transfers. Also, a former Tennessee coach has passed away. SEC Media Days set. So expect Nico to be the topic of conversation when Tennessee hits the portal. Hits the podium for more than one reason. It looks as if the SEC is trying to line up something, let's say, exciting for SEC Media Days. There's a lot of transfer portal talk with the schools that Tennessee will be jammed together with when they make the rounds for the media. Portions of the program brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com. HDKnoxville.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. You can also purchase my book online if you like. Celebrate 98. Man, if you haven't stopped by their Kingston Pike location, they have changed a lot of things up and they've moved stuff around. The selection is unbelievable. Anywhere from super classy and awesome to maybe you're showing your countryside a little bit. It is phenomenal what all they have, not just apparel, but more. A great place to purchase gifts for perhaps this upcoming Father's Day. I'll just throw that out there. So certainly check them out. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. No tariffs, tedrussellford.net, tedrusselllincoln.net. Off the Hook Sports.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vols collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute.
And here we go. This was a huge waste of time, like bringing a married guy to Vegas.
Then there's this guy, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and tedrusselllincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
So, Caleb, you've had a minute to soak it in. What do you make of the no contact thing? Do you think it's they know where they're going, the Iamaleavas, or do you think it's more along the lines of they just got a mess and they want to control it as best they can?
I think it's a mess and they want to control it. I'll take it a step further. I think Nico was making some decisions on his own, and Nico's father was like, nope, I make the decisions, and so no one contacts you. Because I think there's conflict within the Iamaleava household.
Well, how could there not be?
Oh, I agree.
I mean, I don't understand how there couldn't be at this point. I mean, you absolutely have derailed your son's life here, have they not? I mean, is that too strong?
No, I mean, I agree. He's derailed his son's life because he thinks he's LeVar Ball.
Yeah, and I agree completely. Fully overplayed his hand and lost the pot. He did. He absolutely did. 4 Downs is brought to you by our fantastic friends at National Fitness Center. Unmatched value, limitless options. Begin your fitness journey today. There's the link right down below, nfc1.com, nfc1.com. So, Caleb, let's dive into this. 4 Downs. First down is this. We're going to talk some basketball transfers as Rick Barnes is not ready to retire. He is super active in the transfer portal now as he tries to rebuild Tennessee's roster for the 3rd straight year. He did it 2 years ago with Dalton Knecht, did it last year with Chaz Lanier, Darlington DeBord, Igor Milic, and he's trying to do so again.
He's already done it this year so far with Jacoby Gillespie and Jalen Carey.
That's right. Tell us about those 2 guys before we get to the 4 prospects that are in the transfer portal zone.
Jacoby Gillespie is a highly touted point guard who transferred from Maryland, averaged double figures, a very elite point guard, helped Maryland get to the Sweet 16. He could immediately replace Zakai Ziegler. Jalen Carey is another post player for Tennessee who could be valuable. Tennessee now can go 4 deep in the post with Cade Phillips, JP Estrella, Felix Opera, and Jalen Carey. They now have their point guard in Jacoby Gillespie, and then they also have Bishop Boswell returning. So basically the transfer portal now, their focus is, and they have probably a backup point guard now in Troy Henderson, because an unrated point guard as a freshman just feels like another Zakai Ziegler to me. So their focus now needs to be, they need more 2 and 3 guards. They need more wings and more scoring guards. And that's where they need to go.
Let's get to the cats that they're looking at now. Before I get to that, do you think this is a situation where they find one slam dunk, no pun intended, at Dalton Connect, or is this a group effort like they did last year?
I think it's a group effort, even more so than it was last year, because Chaz Lanier still was somewhat of a slam dunk, just not a Dalton Connect slam dunk.
If Connect was a 9 on the college basketball scale, Lanier was at least a 7.5.
I think Connect was a 10. I mean, Dalton Connect was a...
I mean, he's second. Yeah, you're right. He's second. He finished second in...
National Player of the Year.
The UPS Store, Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated. The link right down below. Here we go. 4 downs now.
Come on, guys, it's game time.
4 downs. Can you count? 4 downs. 1, 2, 3, 4. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
All righty, first down. Who is the young man on first down? The most important down in football.
Yes, the most important down on football and the most important player the Vols should be targeting. Rodney Rice, the other Maryland transfer. He's teammates with Jacoby Gillespie, so he's a very gettable prospect. He's 6'4", 198. Last year, he shot 37.5% from 3, averaged 13.8 points per game, 81.4% from the free throw line. If Tennessee got him, Dave, they'd pluck him in at shooting guard to replace Chaz Lanier immediately, and Gillespie and him having played together for a year, just a perfect fit. He'd be a junior. I think this is a no-brainer. You do whatever you can to get him. He's visiting Tennessee this week. Tennessee's in his top 6, so they have a very, very good chance to land him.
I also think it's pretty cool he's related to Glenn Rice.
Is he? I don't even know.
I don't know. That's true. All right, second down. Caleb, what do you got? He was a great shooter, too, though, for the Heat.
He was. And wasn't he for the Lakers, too, for a minute? I think he actually was part of the Lakers' first title team with Shaq and Kobe. But,
yep. I see that.
Yeah. All right. So second down, Elijah Freeman. Now, this is a Rick Barnes player that you go for that, you know, pluck the guy out of nowhere to become a star for your team like Chaz Lanier and Dalton Connect. But Dave, he's taking it another level with Elijah Freeman. Chaz Lanier and Dalton Connect, he takes a lower level player and brings him to his level, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this case, he's taking a Division II player. He's like, let me try the Division II route. And Elijah Freeman, the Division II route, plays for Lincoln Memorial. I think their nickname, it was funny, Dave, I just have to bring this up real quick. Lincoln Memorial's nickname is the Rail Splitters. So the Lincoln Memorial Rail Splitters. Elijah Freeman, though, would be an amazing picker for them. He'd be a wing. He'd be a small forward, which they need. He was a McDonald's All-American nominee coming out. He's a freshman, but as a freshman last year, or was a freshman, he'd be a sophomore this year. Even though it was at the Division II level, averaged 19 points, 9 rebounds, and here, get ready for this, shot 46.3% from 3. Yeah, 46.3. Tennessee needs him more than anybody else. He's the second most important player. He's 6'8", so he'd be, again, they plug him in on the wing. They don't have any wings right now. They could just plug him right in on the wing, and he's visiting Tennessee this week too.
Again, record number of concurrent viewers, so please hit that thumbs up button. Know that we greatly appreciate you. Weekdays at 10 a.m.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thanks, Coop.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right, third down is this. It is a young man named Rakease Passmore. Is he a big assist guy?
No, he's a combo guard.
Yeah, his last name's Passmore, so I thought.
This is much more of a risk. He is a 4-star combo guard in the transfer portal. He was a freshman for Kansas this past year, was 6'5". He's 6'5", 185 pounds. He only played 5 minutes a game. but he's a guy you go for potential, but you need a scoring guard. Go for the potential. And if someone's going to get your potential out of you and you buy in, Rick Barnes is that guy, right?
Yep. I would agree with that. Coop.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right. Ian Jackson. No relation to Michael or Jermaine?
No relation to either. Ian Jackson was a freshman at North Carolina.
Who was the fat one?
I don't know. I wasn't a Jackson.
You don't remember the fat Jackson?
No, I don't remember the fat
Jackson.
I don't.
I think was it Tito? I think it might have been Tito. All right. Who's 4th down?
Ian Jackson, 6'4", 190. He was a freshman this past year. He is a 5-star in the portal, played for the North Carolina Tar Heels, was averaging 11.9 points per game, shot a pretty impressive 39.5% from 3, Dave, off the bench. And so he's an elite shooter. Again, a guy they could plug in at the 2 guard immediately to be an impact player. He's last on this list because I think Tennessee, even though they're targeting him, he's the least likely one to end up at Tennessee, because it sounds like St. John's and NC State are his top 2 options at this point. But again, so if my money is on anything, Tennessee's going to land Rodney Rice and Elijah Freeman. That will get them to roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 8 deep on next year's roster. The problem is they'd only be 4 deep among their 3 backcourt players, so they'd really have some work to do there. But that's a good situation. So I got Freeman and Rice probably going to Tennessee.
I was going to make fun of Tito a little bit, but he passed away last year, so I'm going to pass. Adam says, what about Janet Jackson? What was the name of her character on Good Times? Do you remember that, Caleb?
No, I don't remember. That's way before my time.
Oh, I remember that. I remember when the guy died. It was like one of the saddest movie moments ever. The dad died because the actor couldn't come to negotiate. It's like a Nico thing. He did a Nico, and they couldn't come to terms on his contract, so they just killed him. Just killed his character.
Wow, that's actually kind of really funny.
Basically, what Josh Heupel did. All right, so am I moving on here, Caleb?
Pretty much. Tennessee officially did sign Troy Henderson today. So my prediction is that I want to know where you land, but like. I got Jacoby Gillespie starting at point guard, Troy Henderson as the backup. I've got Rodney Rice coming in at the shooting guard, Bishop Boswell as the backup. And then I've got Elijah Freeman coming in on the wing. I don't think there'll be a backup there. They'll just have to work in Bishop Boswell or Troy Henderson or somebody like that. And then the post is Jalen Carey and Cade Phillips at the 4 and Felix Opera at the 5 with JP Estrella.
And it was Penny. Penny was her name on Good Times. I think you've got some homework to do. You've got to catch up to, our viewers are a little bit older than you, so we're going to have to get you up to speed in the pop culture round.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Look at Josh. Josh says, I'm 34 and I know Good Times.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know Good Times. My knowledge of Poetic Justice is not the movie with Tupac and Janet Jackson. It's the song with Kendrick Lamar and Drake.
Okay. So I'm watching Lane Kiffin on Theo Vaughn, which is odd, last night. And Theo Vaughn just randomly asked people what they think of Michael Landon. Do you remember Michael Landon? Little House on the Prairie?
No.
Yeah. So he just randomly asked Lane what he thinks of Michael Landon. He did the same thing with several comedians. It's very bizarre. All right. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. A former Tennessee coach has passed away. Also, SEC Media Days schedule is set, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the schools that go on the same day as Tennessee have had their own transfer portal issues. So get ready. That's going to be the topic of that day, no matter what you think about it. With Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute.
And here we go. This was a huge waste of time, like bringing a married guy to Vegas.
Then there's this guy, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Michael Landon was also in Bonanza and Highway to Heaven. It's 3 hit shows in one career. That's pretty impressive. Okay. You still don't know who it is. You want to pull him up?
I already pulled him up. I see him.
Yeah. Super good looking guy. It seemed like he was dying for my entire life until he finally passed away. It just seemed like he was struggling for a long time.
Dave and his boomer pop culture references. Gen Xer, but you're basically a boomer. Guys, Dave is so boomer, he called me yesterday to be like, so this little thing on my laptop, is it charging?
I am. I was frustrated because we were right up against the show starting and I accidentally kicked out my power cord. So my computer was dead and I was having a panic attack. I knew I sounded boomer when I asked it. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and eat the crow because I'm scared. That's pretty much where I was. All right. So Michael Landon. And if you want to say hello, you can either say hello or you can do it the Philip Fulmer way and say, damn it, Dave. Let's talk SEC Media Days for a moment. The SEC Media Days schedule is set. And if you want to run that down, Caleb, I would love to hear it because we will be there broadcasting live.
Yes, the SEC Media Days schedule is set. On Monday, LSU, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt are all going. So Brian Kelly, Lane Kiffin, Shane Beamer, Clark Lee. Tennessee's going on Tuesday.
Let me stop you for a second because I'm going to give you my takeaway on each day. What will be the story of the day? So throw those 4 at me on the Monday.
LSU's Brian Kelly, Ole Miss's Lane Kiffin, South Carolina's Shane Beamer, Vanderbilt's Clark Lee.
Okay, I believe the news of the day will be which coach is outie. And I think that Lane Kiffin, we all know, wants the Florida or LSU job. Brian Kelly could be out as LSU's coach. Shane Beamer, with another great season, could elevate himself to get a better program. So could Clark Lee. So I think that is the mantra of that day. Which coach will not be with his team, either by his choice or the school's choice in 2026?
I'm going a different route, interestingly enough. I believe that this entire day is about, and I think a lot of SEC Media Days this year is going to be about this, but it's about quarterbacks. Because LSU's returning Garrett Nussmeier, who we think is a really good quarterback. Ole Miss is starting Austin Simmons, and it sounds like they're very high on him. But Ole Miss has other options at quarterback too. I think it's, even though Jackson Dart's gone, people just believe that Lane Kiffin is a quarterback whisperer at this point. Shane Beamer may have the best quarterback in the SEC in Lenora Sellers. And Clark Lee, Diego Pavia made such a big deal about returning to Vanderbilt for a 17th year of eligibility. So I think it's a quarterback driven first day.
I think you and I agree on Shedeur Sanders. We would take him over the Cam Akers.
Cam Ward.
Sorry, from Miami. I also think Jackson Dart's probably the best value quarterback. He could fall to 3rd or 4th round potentially.
I mean, if I would love for my Titans to trade their number 1 pick for a bunch of other like picks and get Jackson Dart.
Yeah, and I'm going to echo what Smoky Mountain Red said. I'm the same way. I'm still waiting for Shane Beamer to collapse. I think that will happen. I think if he parlays this in another good year, potentially making the college football playoff, and now you might not have Tennessee be a factor without solid quarterback play, he could parlay that into a better job elsewhere. And besides, the longer you hang out at South Carolina, the more likely you are to get fired.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Even Steve Spurrier and Lou Holtz got run off, for goodness sake, and they have like a combined 5 million wins.
Well, Steve Spurrier was just annoyed. He was like, I don't need this criticism of what's going on in South Carolina. I'm sick of this. All right, so Tuesday, this is when Tennessee is going, guys, and tell me if you guys can spot the real storyline here. Auburn's Hugh Freeze, Georgia's Kirby Smart, Tennessee's Josh Heupel, and Texas's Steve Sarkeesian take the podium Tuesday. I think it's quarterback driven again.
That's hot.
And NIL driven, right?
Yes, quarterback and NIL. So for those who don't know, think about this. Auburn, what did they do that was so high profile this offseason? They got Jackson Arnold out of Oklahoma. Georgia, what happened to them? They lost Carson Beck. Tennessee lost Nico Iamaleava. By the way, this schedule came out after the Nico news. So Tennessee lost Nico. Now Texas has Arch Manning coming. Has Arch Manning getting ready to start, but that's
Hold on there. It didn't come out. It was probably put together before the Nico news.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think this was because this is too perfect. Tennessee, Georgia, and Auburn on the same day.
Wait,
Georgia, Tennessee,
so
both
I'm confused. Are you saying they manipulated it?
Yes, I'm saying they manipulated Tennessee and Georgia the same day for the news to be about the high-profile quarterbacks transferring out.
Okay, I think you may have said it backwards the first time. I agree with you. I think that they would shift things around just like the college basketball NCAA tournament committee would as well. So yeah, I think that could happen over the weekend. Let's stir that in there. I'm a little surprised that Lane Kiffin and Tennessee don't go every single year, to be real honest with you.
I am too.
A lot of this is orchestrated. All right, go ahead, Caleb.
All right, Wednesday, Alabama's Kalen DeBord, Florida's Billy Napier, Mississippi State's Jeff Levy, and Oklahoma's Brent Venables.
I would think the storyline is give me those 4 again.
Kalen DeBord, Billy Napier, Jeff Levy, Brent Venables.
I don't really see a common storyline. I'm just going to be.
I got one.
Okay.
3 hot seat coaches at blue blood programs for college football: Alabama, Florida, and Oklahoma.
I don't think Kalen DeBoer's on the hot seat.
But here's the thing: there's 3 coaches who have generated questions about their ability to do the job. Will Kalen DeBoer be on the hot seat after this year? He went 9-3 at Alabama last year, their worst record since 2007 in the regular season. Billy Napier at Florida has been on the hot seat for like 4 years in a row. And Brent Venables, I think, might be on the hot seat now too, given how things worked out last year. So
that's hot.
Yeah, I think it's quite coaches who people are questioning. How about that?
Okay, I can roll with that. And the final day is
and I got my storyline. You'll love this. Sam Pittman at Arkansas.
It's gonna be the longest week of the world. 4 teams in 4 days. It used to be 2-4-4-2, but anyway.
Yeah, that's true. So Sam Pittman at Arkansas, Mark Stoops at Kentucky, Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, Mike Elko at Texas A&M. I got my story, but you tell me yours first.
I got Elko, Pittman. Who was the other 2?
Stoops and Drinkwitz.
Stoops and Drinkwitz. I think it's who's the least dumb.
All right. You're on the right track. I'm
on the right track. Okay.
No, because Mike Elko, I think, is smart. No, I'll say who it is. And Eli Drinkwitz is the oddball of the 4 of what I'm about to say because Missouri doesn't fit with this of what I'm about to say. But who runs the most boring football program?
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty good one. Elko's probably the most innovative, and he's boring.
Yeah, he's a defensive guy.
Yeah, I guess Drinkwitz is probably the guy. He's an offensive guy, right?
Drinkwitz is the only non-boring one. But Stoops and Pittman and Elko are all defense, and they are like, that is like old school SEC football right there. That is 1980s Pat Dye, Johnny Majors, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, isn't it?
That is. That's the throwback day.
Yeah.
Tennessee Junior just calls it the Goober Parade. I can go with that as well. Is that our final day for SEC Media Days?
That is our final day for SEC Media Days. I think the most exciting day is it's actually the first day. Brian Kelly and Lane Kiffin. But Lane Kiffin's always going to make it the most exciting day, isn't he?
Yeah, he was sullen last year because his dad had just passed away, and it was pretty obvious, just like a couple of days before. But usually he's going to be the talk of the town. What do you think about him being on Theo Vaughn? Is that the most recruiting thing that Recruiter Lane has ever done? I can't think for a second that he's ever watched Theo Vaughn or knew who he was. Yet there it is. It dropped last night. If you haven't seen it, it's not great, but it's obvious he's trying to appeal to college prospects. Because I remember, do you remember when Theo Vaughn ran out on the field and dumped Gatorade on Josh Heupel? Do you remember that?
I don't remember Theo Vaughn doing
Lord. Oh, Lord. You haven't seen that? All right.
I do not.
Okay. We'll have to pull that. But he did. And I remember texting Cooper and Jacob. And I was like, did you see this guy named Theo Vaughn? And they're both like, Jacob had a picture with him. And Cooper's like, I love him. I think he's hilarious. Me, 50-year-old Dave, had no idea who he was.
This actually proves how ahead of the curve Theo Vaughn is, because for those who are really following the podcast circuit, Joe Rogan's slipping in viewers, and Theo Vaughn is basically kind of ascending. Now Joe Rogan's still bigger, but we all think Theo Vaughn is going to take Joe Rogan's spot. Because here's the thing about Theo Vaughn. Theo Vaughn interviews politicians, but Dave, you know this, he's not inherently political. He'll talk to them and just that used to be Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan decided, I'm going to take political stances now. And it's like, the minute you do that, you lose the whole value of you as a non-political podcaster, right?
Along those lines, how many thousands of viewers or listeners is a Michael Landon reference every episode worth?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's worth something. All right. So on a serious note, no great way to make a transition to this. No great segue when you're talking about somebody losing their life, but a former Tennessee coach did pass away that probably is easily forgotten, but shouldn't be, Caleb, because as you pointed out this morning, he basically kept Tennessee afloat for the good portion of his time as a Vol.
Yes, Mike DeBord passed away yesterday, very, very sadly. Mike DeBord, for those who don't know, had a stellar track record as an offensive coordinator, not as a head coach. He was Central Michigan as a head coach for 4 years in the early 2000s, but he made the fatal error of naming Butch Jones his offensive coordinator. That's probably why it didn't work out at Central Michigan. But then they flipped roles, whereas Mike DeBord became Butch Jones' offensive coordinator in 2015 and 2016. And between the firing of Philip Fulmer and the hiring of Josh Heupel, those are the 2 years Mike DeBord was offensive coordinator. Those are also the only 2 years Tennessee finished in the top 25 between Fulmer and Heupel throughout that entire period. And it was, I mean, I just have to be honest. He was a very smart, innovative coach. And let's not forget what he did. He ran a pro-style offense as Michigan's offensive coordinator in the late 90s, turned Tom Brady into an NFL quarterback and won a national championship with Brian Griese. Then he goes to Central Michigan. Then he runs the spread at Tennessee in the mid-2010s and turns Josh Dobbs into an NFL quarterback. Tennessee's 2016 season, I don't know if you guys know this, Josh Dobbs' 2016 season, in terms of raw numbers, is the second most productive season for a quarterback in Tennessee history, only to Peyton Manning's 1997 season.
Wow.
And that was all Mike DeBord. I'll take the stats even a step further. Forget the Fulmer to Heupel years, Dave. Let's just go back to 2005. 2005 was the first year Tennessee turned disaster that you were covering, right?
Yes.
From 2005 through 2021, 17-year period, there were 4 years Tennessee finished in the top 25. The 2 years David Cutcliffe was their offensive coordinator. The 2 years Mike DeBord was their offensive coordinator. And Mike DeBord,
in your opinion, was he the best coach in that whole? I mean, any assistant, any head coach during that whole Dooley, Jones, Pruitt time?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think there's a I mean, and that's to speak no ill will of Justin Wilcox, who I thought was a good defensive coordinator, or Jim Chaney, who I think is a good offensive coordinator, but I think Mike DeBord was the best of the group.
You know who I think second? Because
Who?
we're talking about DeBord as a coordinator, right? We're not talking about
Right.
him as a head coach. I think it's Jeremy Pruitt. Great talent evaluator, could put a defense together. I think they're very similar. Pruitt got thrust into the role of head coaching, which he was not cut out for.
Yes, no, I agree. As a defensive mind, Pruitt was great. DeBord also, we have to point this out. Something happened with DeBord and Butch Jones after 2016 because DeBord bolted for Indiana. And
Well, he figured out that Butch Jones was just full on stupid.
I think that's what he figured out too.
I mean, I figured that out at one point when I was told that I knew what happened with the falling on a helmet thing. I knew what happened with a tight end that he dog cussed, and I knew what happened with a center that he punched in the gut. So I knew all of that and that it was going to go south. I'm sure Kalen DeBoer figured that out either through being on the
Mike
practice-
DeBord.
Mike DeBord, excuse me. Mike DeBord figured that out either through being on the practice field or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, then the in-game decisions showed how stupid he was too. You're probably right about that. He probably learned he was stupid. And by the way, what happened when Mike DeBord left? Tennessee went 4-8 the next year with a historically bad offense. DeBord and Josh Dobbs together say this is what's so despicable. It's like Butch Jones walks around like he did a couple weeks ago, be like, "We did things at Tennessee that hadn't been done in a long time there," by going back to back 9-4. And it was no, DeBord and Dobbs did that. You were just along for the ride, Butch. And I mean, it was in his. I think it's kind of it is. Apparently, he had a stroke in 2021, and he died from complications of a stroke, is what happened. But Mike DeBord was a great offensive mind for Tennessee for 2 years, honestly.
Well, and remember this too. A head coach has got to be the absolute best at one thing. Nick Saban, he's the absolute I'm talking about on his staff, not in the country. He's the absolute best at coaching defensive backs. Josh Heupel, no one would argue this, is the absolute best at putting together an offensive game plan. Now, maybe he needs Alex Golesh back, but he is the best on his staff. Steve Spurrier, the best put together a passing attack. You have to be the best. Butch Jones nor Derek Dooley was ever the best at one particular aspect of coaching. And if you're not that, I don't think the assistant coaches respect you. Jeremy Pruitt was one of the best. He was definitely the best on Tennessee's staff of evaluating talent, and one of the best, I believe, in the Southeast, and one of the best in terms of putting together a defensive game plan. He just wasn't a head coach. If you're not the best at one thing, I don't think other coaches take you seriously.
Yeah, and it's even the same with, and you bring this up, Philip Fulmer. He was he was better than any line coach that he had, right? As an offensive line coach. I mean, even Mike Berry, who I think was an amazing offensive line coach. I mean, Fulmer was a better line coach than Mike Berry, wasn't he? Like, if you need
I'd probably take a coin flip on that. That's why Berry left, because they butted heads so much. I would say that he's closer as an offensive coordinator to Cutcliffe than many people think.
I mean, I could see that. I think Fulmer, though, it was his philosophy to let his staff do the job, and so he went hands off with Randy Sanders, and that was a mistake. But yes, I look.
I don't know that he had a choice, because I don't know that he could have gone out and hired another offensive coordinator that would have been okay with him looking over their shoulder. See, that was the thing about Philip Fulmer's tenure. It was so tight in the group. I mentioned Pat Washington and Larry Slade, how people just disliked them as the receivers coach and secondary coach, respectively. But I mean, you knew that Philip was overlooking everything. So that was a good thing when Tennessee was winning. But when they had to go out and hire somebody like an offensive coordinator, be it when they hired Randy Sanders, which I thought was going to work out. I wrote a big, long story about he's Tennessee's coach in waiting. In retrospect, that was stupid. But yeah, but it was, but no, I'll look at, lost my train of thought a little bit. What were we talking about?
Talking about Fulmer and what he was good at.
Oh, yeah. But that was always going to work against him. The fact that he would look over somebody's shoulder. Listen, let's not forget, Gus Malzahn got Tulsa to the #1 offense in the nation the year they hired Dave Clawson, or the year before. It was a no-brainer. Go hire Gus Malzahn. He would take that jump to go to a bigger university. And instead you hire Dave Clawson, who likes to flip-flop the offensive line.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, I'm seeing on the message board, and you guys tell me, I didn't know this. So Philip Fulmer looked at hiring Mike DeBord in 2007 after Cutcliffe left. I could see that. I think that would have been a hard. The problem is that would have been a very hard sell for the university because DeBord was at Michigan when Michigan was getting really stale under Lloyd Carr during that time, and I think Tennessee fans wanted a splash.
I've never heard that.
I just pulled up the message boards, and some people were talking about Mike DeBord during that time. But again, during that time, Mike DeBord was considered stale because Lloyd Carr had just resigned. Chad Henne had been a bit of a disappointment at Michigan. People wanted didn't you feel that when he made the hire he made, Dave, there was a bit of pressure to make some sort of a splash, and it just blew up in his face?
With the offense?
The Clawson hire, yeah.
I thought it was the most boring hire that I've ever been around.
It felt like he was trying to, but Clawson did run somewhat of a spread. It felt like Fulmer was trying to insert some creativity into the offense that hadn't been there before.
Yeah, I guess. You flip-flop offensive linemen, you're just asking to get your butt beat in the SEC.
I mean, no, I agree. I mean, and Fulmer admitted that there were dynamics that he wasn't aware of that didn't work. Now,
well, how did you not know that, though?
Yeah, that's true.
You don't watch any tape of his teams playing football?
But you didn't see like what they were running in practice. He probably just looked at the tape on the field. But yes,
he flip-flopped them during games.
Oh, I didn't realize he flip-flopped them during games.
Yeah,
and
during plays. Not during plays, but play to play.
But the other side is the looking over the shoulder. I mean, like, didn't Nick Saban always look over the defensive coordinator's shoulder? Like, and was that a problem?
Yes, but does the average assistant coach respect Philip Fulmer as much as Nick Saban? There's your answer. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, tedrussellford.net, tedrusselllincoln.net. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to kick around a couple of things that I'm excited about. Should Nico just say, I'm out? I'm gone. I'm going to the NFL, prep for the NFL, because I don't think it's a terrible idea. Some other topics we'll kick around as well. We'll have the latest on Tennessee's transfer portal issue, or let's say challenge of replacing 3 solid players on Tennessee's basketball team. Might have a little recruiting as well. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.